Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. It's my pleasure to be here tonight, and I'm delighted that we're going to focus on women of color and their achievements, and recognizing the achievements, of course, of Margaret Breland, Henrietta Lacks, and I look forward to the comments from Vanessa Braxton, who has such a terrific background as the supervisor described, as an engineer and as the first African-American woman distiller and master blender of vodka. Who would have thought in our town of Huntington? You know, Sweden has Absolut vodka, France has Grey Goose, Tito's has Texas, but Huntington has Black Mama vodka in the house. That's something, huh? Give a hand for that. You know, each year I try and focus on some of the good things in our community, but also to recognize some of the areas, either in our community or in our country, where we could use some work. I am so happy and pleased this year to report that in December we appointed the first African American to the position of receiver of taxes in our town, and that's Jillian Guthman, making history, Jillian. And in Suffolk County, we should be proud, we elected Errol Toulon, the first African American sheriff. Now, you've heard the phrase, there's a new sheriff in town. You usually don't hear after that it's Dr. Errol Toulon, a doctor, a PhD. And he builds upon the great successes, of course, Glenda Jackson and Tracy Edwards, and their election in our town. I will tell you, we need to think about where we are as a country as well. Last year, the new administration in Washington was in its infancy, and I was concerned, and I think you may recall, because President Trump had a number of very negative tweets about a civil rights icon in our country, John Lewis. And I look back at last year, and I said, it can't get any worse than that. Well, boy, was I wrong. And I was trying to come up with a way to describe the current state of affairs, and I came across a quote from LeBron James, and I think he said it very well. He said, "The current climate in Washington has given racism an opportunity not only to be out, but to be outspoken." You see, the more subtle racism of the past, job discrimination, profiling, mass incarceration, voter suppression, has given way to far more overt ways of racism. We've gone from subtle racism, where we're now actively giving aid and comfort to the enemies of civil rights. You see, you give aid and comfort to the enemies of civil rights when in the aftermath of a white supremacy march in Charlottesville, where a woman is killed as a hate crime, you say, there were very fine people on both sides of the argument. You give aid and comfort to the enemies of civil rights when that happens. You give aid and comfort to the enemies of civil rights when you question why we let people from countries where people are of color, like Haiti, El Salvador, and the continent of Africa, you give aid and comfort when you call those countries hellholes. I'll use a nicer word. And when you do that, you give fringe groups in our country a chance to be out and outspoken. You give a group like the Daily Stormer, which is the website, a neo-Nazi website, the chance to welcome the comments of the administration, saying that it's encouraging and refreshing that the president's comments more or less show that we're on the same page when it comes to race and immigration. And make no mistake, you give racism the ability to be out and outspoken right next door in Nassau County. We saw it this last fall, where there were flyers with MS-13 gang members with tattoos. Flyers said, meet your new neighbors. If you vote for a particular candidate, they're going to roll out the welcome mat for the MS-13 in Nassau County, stoking racial fears with the specter of violent criminals. Does it sound familiar? To me, it does. See, 30 years ago, I worked on a campaign for Michael Dukakis, and 30 years ago, they rolled out the image of Willie Horton, a black man who had raped a white woman and assaulted her husband, and use that to stoke racial fears in an election. People were outraged then, but when you see those type of tactics resurface, you know we've reached a strange new normal in this country. Now, if you're outraged, you should be, because this is not what America is about. And so what do? I'll end by saying, what can we do? First, we stay strong, we speak out, and we let our voice be heard. But the best bit of advice I have heard appropriately comes from an outstanding black woman. The words I want you to remember are those of former First Lady Michelle Obama. Mrs. Obama once spoke about how she and the president tried to guide and protect Sasha and Malia while they were in the White House. You remember those fine young ladies that grew up before our eyes? She said, we urged them to ignore those who questioned their father's faith or his citizenship, and she and Barack insisted that the hateful language from public figures on TV does not represent the true spirit of our country. She said, we explain when someone is cruel or acts like a bully, we don't stoop to their level. No, our motto is, when they go low, we go high. That's what we need to do. When they go low, we go high. So when we hear hate expressed towards Haitians or Hispanics, let's go high. Let's go to Huntington Station, to Ginger Bites, a Haitian restaurant, or Las Delicias de la Abuela, a Salvadoran restaurant, and let's embrace them and support them in our community. When you hear hate on the radio or on the internet, go high. Go right to iTunes and download the lyrics of Chance the Rapper or Common and let them ease your mind. And yes, let's end with a shameless plug. When the hateful language on TV becomes too much, don't go low, go high. I didn't say get high, I said go high. Go high and responsibly drink some Black Mama vodka and support a great entrepreneur from our town. God bless you and have a good evening.